Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Before most of us ever even heard about COVID-19, the opioid crisis routinely dominated the headlines and the nightly news here in Vermont and across the country. Since the pandemic was declared by the World Health Organization on March 11th, opioid addiction rates have climbed by an estimated 10%, according to the American Medical Association. But those increases have been largely overshadowed by the pandemic, and the pandemic has forced all of us to isolate to some degree, which is particularly bad news for those suffering addiction. Experts agree that one of the worst-case scenarios for addiction is isolation. Turning Point centers across Vermont provide support to people seeking recovery from substance abuse. Marco Ayala spoke with a new executive director of the Turning Point Center in Chittenden County about addiction recovery during the pandemic.
Thank you for your interest. I joined the center in September. I'm from Vermont. I've been living here for 15 years. My career has been in international development in countries like Afghanistan and Iraq and South Sudan, Bosnia, Serbia. And in every one of those post-war settings, substance abuse was a very big issue. It was an issue in people recovering from war situations and the trauma of war. It was an issue among staff who were working for us in international organizations. And I've also seen problems in my own family where my brother and others have struggled with substance use disorder. So it made me determined to get involved in something in my own community, which I'm really happy to be doing right now. We're at a really critical time in Vermont as well as in the nation. And the major priority right now is for this center and the staff who work here to reach people who don't know that we're still working, who don't know that we offer information and recovery coaching and the ability to have someone to listen and help guide you through all the services in Vermont, as well as be your friend in terms of maintaining a plan. So the biggest issue right now is in this time of the pandemic, when our building is still closed, to reach people who are in isolation and afraid and struggling and let them know that we're here to help.
Great. And it's been about 9 months since people were recommended to go into isolation and social distancing. What impact has that had on Vermonters in recovery?
Well, it's had a major impact because remember, there used to be 300 people a week in this center, and people could walk in and sit down and talk to someone they knew and talk with a friend, talk with a coach, and they had immediate support. The problem now is people don't have that support through the center because the building is still closed. The most important thing of all for people in recovery is connecting with help, connecting with friends and family, getting out of the isolation that people are in. So the biggest challenge for us right now is to reach those people and get them in here to talk to us and get them in contact with the appropriate services that they need.
Right. And the center has been operating remotely during this last months. What impact did that have on your clients and your counselors?
Well, technology is wonderful and it's great that we have it. But the reality is there are a lot of people who don't have access to technology. And therefore, the ability to work via Zoom, via Skype, through our website, all of those things are important. And those things have gone on. I mean, there are phenomenally successful programs of coaching and information and employment services And one of the most popular programs is people participating in yoga remotely because they get a lot of physical wellness out of that, as well as connecting with people that they know. But the reality is so many people do not have access to technology that we have to undertake extraordinary means, word of mouth, media, help through programs like yours that help us get word out to people that we're here, we're working. If you're struggling right now, call us, go through our website, come in and let us know that you need some help, and we're here to try to help you.
I understand that it is in the plans to somewhat reopen the Center for in-person counseling. What protective measures and what is the process going to look like for this?
Last week, the board of directors, in their monthly meeting, approved a modest reopening of the center in approximately 2 or 3 weeks. We will be following all of the CDC and Vermont Department of Health guidelines, hand washing, social distancing, mask wearing, everything that's required by the state of Vermont, we will be doing. And we're going to be open to a very small number of people, 3-4 people at a time, who want to come in for employment counseling or recovery coaching or for an information meeting. It will be small numbers, and we hope to open in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
How can people stay on track on their journey to recovery, and how can friends and family help during this ongoing isolation period?
Well, you have to start off recognizing that people are experiencing different problems. The opiate problem has risen in the United States and in Vermont, but alcohol abuse is still the number one concern of people. Both have gone up during the pandemic. Increases in alcoholism in the state, increases in opiate use, and even overdoses and death. So the reality is that we're facing this problem at a time when it's harder to get information to people, and that's what we have to do. There are many ways for people to get into recovery, and there are many different approaches, everything from counseling to AA meetings to problems of getting a job can help people. But the most important thing is the support of friends and family. People who understand that this is an illness that many people suffer from. As you said before, we all know somebody in our family, our friends, our colleagues at work who've gone through some kind of an addiction problem, or at least they've gone through complications in their lives, including depression and some things approaching mental health problems. We've got to be patient and listen, and we've got to take the time to be available to people. And so therefore, the role that friends and family and a place like the Turning Point Center, Chittenden County, the role we play of giving people information, giving them encouragement, being there to help them stay on that track is an essential part of the recovery process. And, and we really want people to know that we're here to help.
Okay, and it's interesting that you touched the point of alcohol use, because there has been an ongoing joke in social media and in general about how it's okay to drink during the day and drink constantly because we're, quarantined. So have you seen a spike of alcohol use in the last few months? And what impact does the normalization of alcohol use has in our society?
Well, if you look at the data, it looks like there's been like a 30% increase in alcohol sales in Vermont during the pandemic. That's a big increase. Restaurants are closing, bars are not open in the regular hours that they were before. And so part of what this means is people are going home and drinking alone. And whether you're talking about alcohol or you're talking about opiates or other substances that people get involved in, it's really important to understand that desperate things happen when people are alone. And encouraging people to be together, whether it's on the phone or via Zoom or socially distanced, this whole thing of getting people to reach out to others is a big part of recovery, and it's something that we all have to support.
And that's important to know. And I understand that you had a couple fundraisers in the last few months. Can you tell me a little bit of how that go?
Right. Well, in a normal year, and obviously this is not a normal year, there would be three major fundraisers that the center does. One is a comedy night, and we did that virtually, and it was fairly successful in terms of fundraising, and it was certainly successful in terms of humor. The major fundraising event every year is an appreciation event for a community leader in Vermont. Last year, the mayor was the person who was honored, for example. And companies and individuals get involved in sponsoring that event. And that's the major fundraiser. It didn't happen this year. So we undertook a program called $100,000 in 100 days. We went back to all of our sponsors, all of our individual donors, foundations who have supported the center in the past, and we met the goal. We raised $100,000 in private contributions to supplement the work of the center. Excuse me. And much of that money goes to pay for the peer recovery specialists who provide information, the recovery coaching, and those programs here at the center. So Vermonters have been very generous because they understand that recovery, support for recovery is an important thing for our neighbors, and it's an important thing to sustain during the pandemic.
To contact the Turning Point Center, call 802-861-3150 or visit the website turningpointcentervt.org and click on the tab for online recovery resources. And that's our program for today. Once again, thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.